As a Palm Beach County resident, I was really horrified to find out that we put $1 billion worth of our property taxes into Israel bonds when Israel is actively committing a genocide against Palestinians. So it's just almost unbelievable that, we're supplying funds for weaponry that wipe out families when we should be supporting and honoring families like those right here in our own county. We went over some numbers before about supposed overspending and everything, but that's where money should be going. Like, we should be investing in bonds and making investments in general that help our county, that support housing, and the rising costs, that address the rising costs that residents are facing, that help with education, that tend to our unhoused residents and get them everything they deserve to thrive. So, in attending to people who are uninsured and need health insurance. So when March 1st comes around and those bonds mature, please do not reinvest into Israel bonds. Please invest into ethical, community-based investments instead.
I'm also here today to express my concern about Palm Beach County's reinvestment in Israel bonds, as well as express my discontent with the decision-making of this council. These investments break what are clear laws. Do not invest in sovereign bonds if the credit rating is below AA. Only make prudent investments, and do not invest more than a certain percentage of taxpayer dollars in Israel bonds. The job of this council is to protect public interest, but instead the focus has been representing another country and their political agenda. We're not only disregarding laws, but dismissing the very people who elected you, and every time our concerns are dismissed, we lose even more trust. This continued decision-making to invest in foreign entities as opposed to local needs proves we're not being heard. I'll provide an example. The Palm Beach County Comptroller has consistently violated the percentage requirement of how much of public funds can be invested in Israel bonds. The only way this is remedied is by increasing the percentage requirement in Palm Beach County investment policy. At first, only 10% of public funds could be invested in Israel bonds. The comptroller invested 12%. And once this was done, he requested the limit to be increased to 15%. You, as a county commission, unanimously allowed it to be increased. When he violated the 15% limit, you again unanimously allowed it to be increased to 18%. So it's time to break this pattern and the prioritization of a foreign entity. I urge you to reverse course on this issue as of March 1st. Which is just one step you can take to rebuild our trust by not reinvesting the bonds that have matured. These matured funds must be invested in local needs. Additionally, I'd just like to take a moment to voice my opposition to the approval of placing a member of the Israeli Bond National Committee on the Policy Committee of Palm Beach County. It's a clear conflict of interest. And again, the priority should be on the people who reside here, and we require you to hear us. So thank you.
Administrator, former Clerk Abruzzo, would
Yes.
you please speak to how much money have we actually brought back to our taxpayers?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First and foremost, the investment in Israel bonds, and I'm familiar with the numbers up to the point of $745 million invested, was bringing approximately $35 million of interest every year to the county. To put that in perspective, our entire investment portfolio prior to the massive Israel bond investment was only making $27 million a year. So 15%, which I was capped under, was outperforming 100% of the entire investment portfolio. The other thing that is mentioned that these funds could be put in education, these are investment dollars that have to be invested in a small amount of product that are eligible by our clerk's office. So for those in the public that think that we're not putting money in roads or schools, that is not what these funds are. These are primarily our reserve funds, along with the tax rolls that come in that we have to keep liquid to pay the county bills. So in that regard, they have to be invested. They cannot be used for any other purpose but investment to earn investment income.
And Commissioner Weiss, you're recognized.
Thank you. And yeah, just a couple of things. I serve on the Investment Policy Committee for this board. And the one thing is, and I think Administrator Abruzzo said, we don't have, there's not a wide range of products that we can invest our money in. These investments are limited to bank CDs, savings type accounts. The only thing other than that is Israel bonds that the state of Florida allows us to invest in. They consistently return a much higher rate of return than any other option that we have. And it's anywhere from 0.5% to a full percent greater than the other instruments that are available to us. As the clerk, or as Administrator Abruzzo said, the use of the funds, so they come from a variety of different places. They may be a capital fund, for example, if we're saving up to build a new terminal at the airport. While we're waiting to accumulate enough money to build that terminal, that money gets invested. And what does that mean? It means that we're either going to be able to get that project done sooner because of the interest we've earned on that investment, or we're not going to have to charge our taxpayers as much money to complete that project. So it's a benefit to our taxpayers, but those funds cannot be used for whatever we want. Those funds that are from the airport must stay with the airport. Those funds from the capital holdings for the libraries must be spent on the libraries. It's not only, the only area that we have discretion over in terms of where we spend that money is those that are in our reserves for ad valorem dollars. Other than that, everything else is segregated. And in regards to violating, there was a comment made that we violate our limits. We don't. Quarterly, we review those numbers. There has never been a violation of those limits. We have come back, the policy committee has come back requesting those limits be increased, but it's been increased because it's a benefit to this county to earn more interest on our money. And there was another comment made as to the quality of the investment. The state of Florida has passed legislation that says we are eligible to invest in Israel bonds. And that is the only, it's, as I said, the only instrument outside of typical bank accounts that we're eligible to invest in T-bills and that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Flores, you're recognized.
You know, I'm not going to speak specifically about what we just said. I do want to thank our administrator and Commissioner Weiss for their leadership and actually addressing and answering some of these questions. I want to take a different angle. I see a lot of young faces in the crowd, which I've never seen before. I want to commend you on coming out and speaking and asking questions, because you have every right to question the people that represent you. So this is the right time, this is the right opportunity. I think you guys are being very respectful. So I commend you on being here, having a voice, and let it be heard. Thanks.
I'm a Palm Beach County resident residing in Lake Worth, an honorably discharged Vietnam-era veteran of the U.S. Air Force, a retired high school English teacher of 24 years, and a past national president of Veterans for Peace. I speak in opposition to Palm Beach County's over $1 billion investment in Israeli bonds, a crucial source of funding for the Israeli government. Money from bond sales continues to flow into Israel's coffers, with another $100 million forthcoming, allowing it to continue its genocidal campaign in Gaza and the displacement of Palestinians in the West Bank. 8% of Gaza's population, over 175,000, has been wounded by Israeli fire. After 2 years of denial, the Israeli Defense Force has finally confirmed a genocidal death toll of 70,000 plus Palestinian lives, despite claims by apologists for the Israeli government. Actually, the real figure is much higher. This is a ceasefire in name only, as Israel continues to block humanitarian aid from entering the obliterated Gaza Strip. Since the ceasefire was adopted, another 500 Palestinian lives have been lost. The slaughter goes on. These IDF figures do not account for Palestinians dead from starvation or having been trapped under rubble. Factor them in, and the death toll becomes increasingly higher. I could go on and on, but I won't. I beseech you, don't invest in death. My brother died in Vietnam when he came back. So don't invest in death.
I'm a mom. I brought my teenage son out of school so he could see how this works. He's over there. I hear you say that these investments are outperforming all other investments for the county. I'm definitely here with the people who are against this investment. And I would just ask, like, why do you think we are the single largest investor in Israel bonds on the planet? Why are other government bodies not investing this way? Very obvious answer. The money's paying for an ongoing full-scale war against Palestinian families. Children like I have here, I can't stand it anymore. It's not only the full-scale war on families in Gaza, it's also the raids and the occupation in the West Bank and the theft of land. Money can be obviously better served investing in bonds that are life-affirming, that help our families do better on this planet rather than murder them. There's zero reason why Palm Beach County should be such an integral part of the funding of this occupation and war. There is no explanation for this amount of money from our taxpayer dollars to be going on foreign soil soaked in blood. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Speaker brings up a great point. Why are we so large, have such a large investment compared to other communities? Really, that has to do with the relationship that we built with Israeli bonds. When we buy our Israeli bonds, it's not through a third party or the market or Wall Street. You deal directly with the Israeli government. And when the issuance came of the horrible day of October 7th, we were able to be the very first in the nation to buy the bonds, and through our relationship, able to invest in this incredible product for our taxpayer that is returning record-breaking returns. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm here today before the county commissioners today because I'm concerned about Palm Beach County's investment in Israel bonds, as this investment violates key statutes governing public finance investments and funds major human rights violations. Palm Beach County property taxes are invested in $1 billion in Israel bonds, an entity linked to severe human rights abuses. This includes funding of armed conflict where 186 Palestinians have been murdered, environmental pollution with the harm the bombs cause, and displacement of communities. When we invest in these practices, Palm Beach County becomes financially complicit in suffering. This is a profound ethical failure. We are leveraging the wealth of our community to fund death and conflict, not only abroad, but domestically. I'm bringing up this point not to say these investments can be directly invested back into the community, as you all just clarified, but to emphasize the irony of how our tax money is being used. Israeli citizens reap the benefits of the tax dollars of hard-working Palm Beach County residents. Things like free healthcare and subsidized higher education are at the disposal of Israeli citizens at the cost of Palm Beach County taxpayers. Belle Glade residents have to travel an hour out of their city in order to receive healthcare because the facilities at the nearest hospital are inadequate. How many people suffer in an emergency situation because the nearest hospital doesn't have the proper facilities to assist them? We have the resource to solve these issues here at home. They're just being invested elsewhere when that money should be staying here and reinvested into the people that paid that money. Like you guys said, just invest it in more ethical things, not Israel bonds when Israel is committing a genocide, and we've acknowledged this. Our county's value should be reflected in its portfolio. I call on you only to make investments that comply with Florida law and local policy, to pause investments in Israel bonds while there's an active conflict, and not to reinvest the March 1st maturity of Israel bonds back into more Israel bonds. I don't care how much you guys think that it's a good investment. You guys are investing in death.
I want to start my comment by thanking the County Commission. I've worked in local government for a long time myself outside of Florida. I know this is a hard and very thankless job, so I know you all are trying your best. But with that, I would like to respectfully respond to and emphasize a few points that may require clarity, but we are trying to set up private meetings with you all to learn more. For What we have found through our analysis is that the majority of the county's investments in bonds made between October 2023 and March 2024, the same amount of return could have been made by staying invested in the amount of T-bills and other domestic bonds that you had. And so maybe those calculations are wrong, but we would love to discuss them. We have also found a violation in February 2024. More than 10% of bonds, more than 10% of public funds were invested, and we've had these numbers crunched by some finance professionals. We would like to discuss this with you. 18% is a huge amount of the county budget to be invested in these bonds. The Chicago Center for Municipal Finance, University of Chicago Center for Municipal Finance, has been on the record speaking about these investments, saying anything over 5% would simply be unwise. When your investment hit 18%, they said this is incredibly risky for any local government to be doing, to the point where they do not recommend this. They've been on the record saying this is a ridiculous investment. And we understand this makes a return of profit, and it makes a large one. But listen to the numbers you just said. Hopefully I'm understanding. 27 million versus 35. 27 million. And we're getting that extra up to 35 million by investing in death. This money has been shown to go to the state budget. It has been shown through public records requests that it funds Israeli free health care for residents and weapon payments to the United States federal government. And so we understand it makes a profit, but we want profits made in clean and humane ways, and that's possible.
I'm here on behalf of a group of residents in Palm Beach and overall in South Florida that are really, expressing their concern for a transparent budget. A lot of conversation here was spoken about budgeting. County Administrator Abruzzo talked about transparency. So what we really want to express is the need for funding local needs and how these investments that folks are talking about should be taken back, that money that's being, profited and being spent here instead of continuously being reinvested in Israel bonds. I guess, as a resident, I'm worried how CFO said there was a 344 overspending, right? $1 million overspent, yet somehow last month we found $345 million to invest into Israel bonds, bringing our total into $1 billion. 2023, there was a deficit in our budget of $732 million, yet $700 million were invested in Israel bonds. So, there's obviously questions that we all have, and we're looking forward to continuing to meet with you all to have these conversations and the clarities that you guys are bringing up to us. But I think it's also really important to acknowledge that there's a percentage that is to be invested, and it has continuously been exceeded, right? It was 10%, then 12%, now we're at 18%, which is a huge amount of our budget. And the percentage that we're getting back, it's really not that great of an investment. So there is money that could go into things that are helping us, that are more ethical, compared to, how everybody has said, spending money in places that really we shouldn't. And our money is to be spent in local needs, and I'm pretty sure, right, it shouldn't have any political ideology. Yet what you just mentioned is clear political ideology. Thank you all.
Good afternoon. I'm here to express my serious concern about Palm Beach County's investment in Israel bonds, as this record high investment violates key statutes governing public finance investments and funds major human rights violations. Palm Beach County property taxes are invested in $1 billion in Israel bonds, an entity linked to severe human rights abuses, including funding of West Bank apartheid and the Gaza genocide, where at least 81,000 Palestinians have been murdered, a minimum estimate accepted by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, along with environmental pollution with the harm the bombs cause and the displacement of communities. Half of the population of Gaza is below the age of 18. These are children. When we invest in these practices, Palm Beach County becomes financially complicit in genocide. We are leveraging the wealth of our community to fund death and conflict. Wealth derived from our diverse and peaceful neighborhoods is used to enable oppression elsewhere. This is a profound ethical failure. Our county's value should be reflected in its portfolio. I call on you to only make investments that comply with Florida law and local policies, to pause investments in Israel bonds while there is an active conflict, and to not reinvest the March 1st maturity of Israel bonds back into more Israel bonds. These matured funds must be invested ethically to serve local needs that are made public to Palm Beach County constituents. Do not let our community be bankrolled by bloodshed. Please align our investments with our conscience. I urge the Palm Beach County Commission to vote no on the appointment of the Israel Bond National Committee member to the Palm Beach County Investment Policy Committee. Thank you.
It is deeply disconcerting to see Palm Beach County invest a total of $1 billion in Israel bonds. Israel bonds investments of taxpayer dollars are actively funding the ongoing genocide in Gaza, and this investment caused a significant deficit in the county's budget, a $732 million budget shortfall in late 2023 after $700 million were invested in 2023. Palm Beach County residents need better roads, infrastructure, accessible healthcare, access to food, and quality air to breathe, not for property taxes to be continually raised to obscene levels to help the county double down on its commitment to a state that commits human rights violations abroad. It is illegal to invest in sovereign bonds if the credit rating is below AA. The credit rating for Israel bonds at the time of investment was B. It is illegal to invest more than a certain percentage of taxpayer dollars in Israel bonds, and you consistently violated the percentage requirement. To work around this, on October 21st, 2025, you unanimously approved increasing the maximum limit of public funds invested in Israel bonds from 15% to 18% of the county's total investment portfolio. Further, today, you all very slyly added to a vote to decide to put a member on the Israel Bond National Committee on the Palm Beach County Investment Policy Committee. This is deplorable and unacceptable. Palm Beach County's $1 billion investment in Israel bonds reflects a conscious decision to dismiss your community, exposing the county to needless financial risk due to the unstable nature of this investment and the mismanagement of taxpayer money. It blatantly disregards the public laws and regulations to represent the interests of Israel's political agenda, and it is manipulating to try and make the public believe that these financial decisions are being made with our best interests in mind. We see through this. There is growing distrust of our elected and appointed officials because profit and corruption are taking precedence over the well-being, safety, and quality of our community members.
Thank you.
I'm here today to express my opposition to Palm Beach County's investment in Israel bonds, as these not only violate key statutes governing public finance investments, but also egregiously fund human rights violations abroad. As a public school educator, I urge you to reconsider how this money could be better allocated, perhaps committing it to serve our diverse student population, many of whom are traumatized and unable to focus on their studies due to the deployment of ICE military-style raids in our cities. As of now, your $1 billion investment in Israeli bonds stands as a cornerstone of another military occupation, the genocidal operations and war crimes in Gaza, responsible for civilian deaths in hospitals, refugee camps, schools, and residential buildings. On top of this, you're also considering appointing a member of the Israel Bond National Committee to the Palm Beach County Investment Policy Committee, thereby violating public trust and further normalizing these blood-soaked investments. Many of us are here today because we choose solidarity over exploitation, collective power over this depravity, freedom of expression over fear, and livelihood over death campaigns paid with our tax dollars. We are here because we refuse to remain silent amid these injustices and the county's complicity and mismanagement of public funds. I don't know if you all have seen the news, but people have had enough. Our distrust in elected officials has become deeply rooted, as people like yourselves continue to sit idly by, ignoring our needs. Do not gaslight us by rewriting the law unanimously, approving and increasing the percentage of these investments, currently at a ghastly 18%, further fueling precarity, all while supporting a foreign government. I'm here to propose a radical alternative, one where you actually listen and don't antagonize or disregard the constituents you swore to represent. Do not think that our presence here is isolated or reactionary. We are part of a broader justice framework. We are here watching, organizing, educating ourselves and our community about this repulsive investment.
I'm here to reiterate all the amazing points already brought up today. I'm here to express my disapproval in this commission's $1 billion investment in Israel bonds through the lens of a growing sentiment not only among local constituents, but an overwhelmingly growing one among state and local constituencies in our nation. This sentiment is our politicians are no longer serving our interests alone, but the interest of the Israeli government and lobby. We have a plethora of issues that desperately require our attention and funds here, as a 5-minute stroll through our beautiful city at night will show us. People are struggling to make ends meet, and we are investing money into the foreign interest of a nation that recent polling shows Americans want nothing to do with, as the Israeli government has been linked to massive atrocities and war crimes in Gaza. Our absolute backing and funding to this violent regime has made Americans linked to this genocide, a link we no longer want or need. Please hear our voices, as only our interests should be of interest to you. Now you have spoken that the funds have made a return financially, but morally and ethically, we no longer want association with the Israeli state. If our logic is financially driven alone, where do we draw the line? When will morality and ethics matter once more? As someone who has spent time in the Middle East, I have firsthand seen the barbarity of this current regime. This is a stain on the goodwill of our nation and makes us more unsafe here in our cities. Please use our funds ethically and not to further the interest of a genocidal regime that the majority of Americans no longer want to be linked to. And as a previous speaker said before me, please do not invest in death. Thank you.